Hey, it's Lindsay, y'all. So, uh, I went to bed at a decent time last night for the first time in a while, and I woke up at 5 a.m. and couldn't get back to sleep. And I tried for hours, but my brain was just churning over and over and over again. And a lot of it was kind of on one topic. Um, and it's something I've kind of been struggling with a lot lately. It's been on my mind. I don't know why now. And it's not something new, but it's been on my mind a lot lately. So, um, I just kind of wanted to brain dump a little bit, and as you can tell by the title of this video, it has to do with surgery. I know I've talked about it a couple times before here and there, but I don't know. I just got some thoughts I need to get out. So bear with me. It's going to be a little raw. Maybe some, I don't know, sensitive areas of topics of discussion. Probably some stuff that if I was monetized would get me demonetized. I don't care. I don't have that many subscribers. I don't have that many views. And yeah, whatever. It's nothing that's inappropriate. It's just talking about a little bit of anatomy. But yeah, so, and I did write it out this time, so I've got something to reference, and hopefully I won't go off script like I just did. So, surgery scares the hell out of me. And like generally speaking, surgeries are expensive and they have risks associated with them. And trans surgeries have that too. They have their own special risks. And then you also get that fun thing with the social stigma and internalized transphobia and shame, and those are things that I'm struggling with too. So I think, I got to go back a little bit, and I've probably told parts of this before, but I'm going to tell it again, just as background on me and kind of where my stance on surgery comes from and things. I think it's been a minute since I talked about it. So going back when I was younger, despite all the horrible representations of trans people in like Jerry Springer and shitty movie villains and things like that, I kind of always felt sort of an innate connection to trans experience, unsurprisingly. And so even if I wasn't consciously aware of it, like it was there. And it wasn't until like maybe my early 20s that I started learning more about trans experiences, like real ones. Not to say that the Jerry Springer people weren't real, but there was a lot of staged and high drama just shit going on. So I started to see some of these like candid stories and pictures, and when YouTube came around, seeing videos talking about people's experiences. So I learned a bit here and there, and I developed this narrative in my head that shaped my unconscious trans feelings, and it kept me an egg for so damn long. And that narrative that I had in my head was, based on limited information. It wasn't based with talking to actual trans people directly. And so I got kind of a partial story, and I got this sort of very closed, sort of catastrophized view of it a little bit. So the first part of it is that common narrative that trans people always just knew that they were living as the wrong gender. They always just knew. And that wasn't me. So that one was part of the thing that kept me from accepting who I was. But the other big part of my head narrative was that being trans meant that you had to have all of these surgeries all over your body to transition. And like, it was just this big package deal. You did all of that. That was the only way to do it. So you had to have like face surgery and like, like neck surgery, like a trach shave, and like a boob job and bottom surgery. Like all of this was it was all this big experience that had to happen if you were really trans. And it's expensive and like legitimately physically traumatic on your body. And to be completely honest, that all scared the shit out of me. There's no way I could be trans, because even though I wished so hard for a female body, I was sure I would never be able to put myself through all of that. I would never want to. I didn't want it bad enough, so I couldn't be trans. So fast forward to August 2019, and I learned there's more than one way to be trans. Woohoo! And so I'm trans, and I accepted that, and that was great. And then I was like, okay, well, do I want to transition? And at first I wasn't sure. It didn't really take me that long to figure it out, but like, I wasn't sure, because like, I knew I wanted that female body, like I said, but I also, had to sort of unpack that original narrative and learn some new things. And I did. And so I learned that, hey, there's more than one way to transition. That all of the surgeries are optional, a la carte, and it doesn't make me any less valid if I don't want any of them, if I don't get any of them. And my wife, at the time, technically still my wife, because we're not technically divorced yet, but we're separated. But she had told me that if I did get bottom surgery, that she definitely wouldn't be able to stay with me. That would be a deal breaker. And like, that was kind of like, okay, that's convenient, because I wasn't interested in surgery and I had this long standing thing. So when I decided to transition, I decided that I was going to be non-operative, not getting any surgeries. And that was going to be perfect. Because even though I really wanted that female body, I felt like I didn't want it bad enough to put myself through all of that. And that, after learning all of the things that hormones could do, I was really hopeful and really optimistic about what that was going to get me. So, full steam ahead. Choo choo. So yeah, I started transitioning. And fast forward again to like 9 months later. So like, what is that? Like almost 5-6 months ago at this point, I was really starting to feel good about my transition. Like the social part of it, the physical changes that I'd already gotten from HRT and growing my hair out and laser hair removal and all of that good stuff. It was coming together. We're starting to. And, starting to get people saying like, oh, look at that glow up, that kind of shit. That makes you feel really, really good. And yeah, so feeling good. And I guess somewhere in that process of feeling good, I freed up some mental and emotional capacity or something. And I got sucker punched. And I started feeling bottom dysphoria. It just kind of came out of nowhere. And I had that. And I was like, well, shit. So I took it to my therapist, and she was like, well, I figured we were probably going to have this conversation at some point. And I took it to my, therapy group and got some advice there. And I'm like, okay, so I guess I have bottom dysphoria now. And okay, so it's not so bad. But like so many things, it comes back, and it keeps coming back, and it intensifies. It's like, that's how dysphoria tends to work. you don't address it, and it just keeps bugging you more and more. Look, I can honestly say that I have never been in love with my bits. They're kind of small. I've had a few bouts of ED in my life, some things like that. But, I mean, I never hated them. We had some really good times together. But, I don't know, as I see myself more and more as the woman that I am and the woman that I'm becoming, it just feels incongruous to have that between my legs. The rest of me is getting that female body that I wanted so bad, or at least as best as I can get from hormonal changes at this point in my life. But, if I can get that, then why should I settle for not having that flat front that allows me to fearlessly wear the kind of clothes that I've been eyeing, but they're way out of my comfort zone with what I've got going on down there. Why shouldn't I get to have the sexual experiences that I've always dreamed about, but I was sure I was never going to get? Why can't I just have that feeling of rightness and comfort in a body that looks and feels as properly female as modern medicine can give me, given the unfortunate circumstances of my body at birth? And why can't I? Because I'm fucking scared. Because I feel deep irrational shame. Because I struggle with the willingness to commit to a maintenance routine that most, though not all, cisgender women will never have to endure just to have the right parts between their legs. I'm scared of the surgery, first and foremost. Regardless of the technique and whether you go for depth or not, there are risks. Like, there's the usual surgical risks, sure. Bad reaction to anesthesia, infection, popping stitches, those kinds of things. But then, like I said, there's also the risk specific to gender confirmation surgery. Loss of sensation, like sexual sensation, the ability to orgasm, like there's a non-zero risk of that. I know people who have had other things nicked while the surgeon was in there, like a bladder or a prostate, and that complicates things and can, it can lengthen your recovery time. It could have potential for additional things that they have to go back and fix later. Like, that's a possibility. You can also, just have the results don't look right. They don't look right enough. They don't look real enough. You could end up, if you go for depth, you could have, it to be too shallow. It could be too tight, specifically, I think, because of like your pelvic floor muscles, things like that. If you don't do things right, you could have hair in places you're not supposed to. And there's not a lot you can do about that at that point. Like, if you have hair inside, they can't go in and do electrolysis on that. Caught that before it happened. All right. Not gonna edit it out because that's me. You know me. That's how I do. Let's see. Where was I? Yes, hair in places that you don't want it. No, thank you. So, even if everything goes great in all of those regards, there is still absolutely a recovery period because it's major surgery, and there is just the general physical recovery aspect of that. Months of recovery. And even when you're up and moving again, like there's still a lot of swelling that sticks around for a while, and there's like activity that you're not cleared for a while. And like, just to be blunt, there's bleeding and there's oozing and there's discharge, and like you have to relearn to pee, for fuck's sake. And if you want a functional vagina behind that vulva, you got to dilate for the rest of your life. I mean, there's some techniques that I think you don't have to after a while. I think there's this initial dilation, but still, like, there's dilation, there's maintenance, there's aftercare that is required there. That is, some people tell me like, oh, it's not that bad and it's worth it, and I'm like, okay, I believe you, but it's also very, very intimidating. And like those first like 3 months, it is a huge time commitment. Like, I've heard enough people talk about it. Like, it's like to the extent that it's like, well, this is pretty much your whole day, because there's like a lot of like, you have prep to get ready for it, and then you do it, and then you have the cleanup, and then you have a few hours to do something, and then you have to go do it again. Yeah. And you have to do that if you want to make sure it stays like useful and maintain depth, if that is a thing that you went for. But I'm sniffling because of like allergies and stuff, by the way, not because I'm emotional. I mean, this is all like raw and emotional shit, but that's not because I'm like crying or anything. Not yet, anyway. Maybe later. But yeah, so I'm not sure I want to commit to all of that. I'm scared, and I'm kind of lazy when it comes to some of those things, and I don't. It makes me feel like I don't want it enough. Just invalidating myself. So then you've got the shame and the fear and of the social stigmatization. Look, I know most people will generally not give a fuck. Like, they don't care. And some folks, cis and trans, will be absolutely thrilled for me to be approaching rightness in my body. But then I know that there are those who will definitely judge me. And some even told me when I came out, don't do it. Even though I felt like I didn't want it at all then, and I hadn't even had the chance to tell them that. It was kind of part of the spiel I was going to go for, but before I even got the chance, they were like, don't do it. Like, it was that important that they needed to tell me that. Because I haven't given this any thought, you know. Certainly not more than you. Yeah. And I shouldn't care. I shouldn't care what they think. I shouldn't care what they say. I should do what feels right for me. But I haven't been able to shake that part of the shame and the internalized transphobia yet. I've shook it off. I've shaken it off in other areas, and I'm proud of myself. I've done a lot of things. I've come a long way since not last August, since August 2019. I can't say last August anymore because it was one before that. Because I had one, yeah. I've come a long way, but for whatever reason, this one keeps sticking with me. And like, I hear them saying like, I shouldn't do anything so permanent because what if you change your mind later? Even though I've literally wanted this fucking body since I was a child. Before I even knew what sex was. Like, never mind that hormones have literally already given me things that, like, they're not going to go away without some sort of surgical intervention anyway. And again, not that I want to detransition, because I love this and I'm excited to see where it keeps going with the hormones. Or like they'll say that I'm mutilating my body. Like that's the word that keeps coming up in my fucking head, is hearing a voice telling me that it's mutilating my body if I do any of those surgeries. Let alone the big one, or the surgery. And we all know it's not. Well, hopefully we know, if you're watching this, like it's not just the surgery. Like there's a lot of different types. There's a lot of different ways to go about it. There's different results that you can get from it, and blah blah blah. There's a lot of things you can do down there. That's what I'm saying. And like my logical brain, because I am very smart, my logical brain knows that it is no more mutilation than like LASIK or an appendectomy, or if you need like medically necessary amputation. But also, like, if you want to get, just if you just want to get a boob job because you want bigger boobs, or you want to get like a lipo and a tummy tuck just because that's going to make you feel better about your body. Like, it's no different than those things. In a lot of ways, it's just, I shouldn't care what anyone else thinks about the choices that I'm making for my body. But I have internalized decades of bullshit, and it's hard to shake. And then there's that next big question is, after all of it, what if I'm not happy? I know that satisfaction rates are typically pretty high for people that have had bottom surgery. Sorry. But I have also heard direct accounts and had conversations with trans women who were really disappointed and frankly pissed at the results they had afterward. There wasn't the level of like anatomical correctness and definition to what they expected. And so that either means that you live with it, or you go back for even more surgery in the form of revisions and just continuing to put your body through even more physical trauma. And I don't know if that ends up costing you more, or if it's like it's a package deal, like it's included. I don't know. And after all of that, what if I don't then get that like overwhelming sense of relief that I am desperately hoping that this would bring to this fucking dysphoria that is apparently now just regularly rattling around in my conscious mind. Moved up from the unconscious. Awesome. Thanks, buddy. And then like another thing, what if I end up missing the bits that I was born with? I've said on multiple occasions to friends at this point, and I really do mean it, before I can truly make a decision on whether I want bottom surgery or not, I really feel like I need to use my factory installed equipment as designed a few more times now that hormones have had time to change the way that I experience sex. Like I said, we had some good times together. And I really need to know definitively and finally what I'm giving up if I move forward with surgery. Of course, the problem with this, I don't actually have anybody to experience this with. My wife left me, as you know. And honestly, the last few times that we were intimate together, there was a look of distaste, if not outright disgust, in her eyes, and at the changes to my body and the changes to the way that I wanted to interact during sex and the way I wanted to be touched. And she didn't like it. And I respect that, but it also was just a nice little bit of parting trauma at the tail end of that relationship. And I'm I'm struggling with that, and I'm working through it in therapy, but like it wasn't easy. So I don't have my wife to do this experimentation with, and I am not a hookup person. I have really kind of determined that I'm demisexual and that I need like some sort of like a mental and emotional connection to somebody if I want to like be intimate with them and to feel that attraction, that sexual attraction. Like my sexual partners thus far have mostly been romantic partners, but also a few like very close friends that I trusted and I felt connected enough with to share that level of intimacy. So, the latter certainly possible, but probably doesn't seem like it's going to happen anytime soon. There's COVID, and and then just having a friend to have that with, like, it just, things have to align for that to happen. And as for the former, it would be contingent on me actually finding someone to partner up with at all. But then also, having one that meets the criteria of is okay with dating a trans woman, first and foremost, is okay with having PIV sex, and is okay with the distinct possibility that my genitals will be completely reconfigured. And that experimentation and those sexual activities with them are a part of that decision-making process. It seems like maybe it's asking a lot. So then the last kind of fear that I have is, after will I be happy, is what should I be afraid of next? What is the next thing that's going to sucker punch me like this did? Like deep down, I know that it's better to just, systematically like knock these hurdles out as they come, and just how many there are, it doesn't matter. Like just keep knocking them down, because that is the path to wholeness and completeness and being healthy. The alternative is I sit on it and I don't have the mental capacity to deal with those other things. And they all just kind of fester to some extent. But the truth is, I don't know what comes after this. I don't know what or if there will be something that comes after this that's going to knock me on my ass. And honestly, that there's bliss in ignorance, but there is also a very powerful fear of the unknown. So with as much as I'm stressing over this and I'm weighing it in my head and all this that I've just laid out, it honestly feels kind of obvious and inevitable what's going to happen. I'm probably going to get some sort of surgery down there, whether it's an orchiectomy and or vulvoplasty and or vaginoplasty. I don't know. I don't know what kind. I don't know when. But I know I'm spending a lot of time rationalizing it. And if history has taught me anything, this dysphoria and anxiety, it's just going to keep getting worse if I don't do something about it. So I probably will. I need to talk to my therapist. I got some other stuff I need to talk to her about when I see her later this week. That Christmas stuff, I haven't seen her since then. But this is definitely probably need to really start having those conversations. But for now, I'm just going to wallow in it. All that negativity that society has associated with these life-affirming procedures and all of that fear, I'm scared. And I'm kind of frozen. Fuck. So that's what I needed to get off my chest. It's a lot. I think this was probably kind of long for a video, but if you got through it, thank you. If you're trans, I hope you feel validated and not alone, and hopefully not even more scared than you may have already been. And if you're cis, I hope you found this insightful and educational, and I hope you're grateful that I'm kind of pouring myself out here. Like, I didn't, as I was telling a friend earlier, I don't really make a lot of these videos specifically for y'all. Like, I'm glad, I mean, it's a part of why I do it, absolutely. But a lot of it really is just me needing to get some things off my chest. So I'm glad that I can hopefully educate and inform and normalize some of this conversation and trans experience for those who maybe don't get it. But yeah. Anyway, as usual, love and hugs. Love and hugs.